Hello, YouTube. It's Barbara Jean. This is part 5. I think this is part 5. Could be wrong. 1, 2, 3. This is part 4. I'm trying to count my videos here. This is part 4 of my video series on Elihu and the importance of what Elihu says to Job and how it speaks to all of us. The sin of Job and how Elihu actually was the only one of his friends that was able to see clearly Job's sin, because it is subtle. It is a sin that is of the mind and the heart, and not so much of the actions. It's not so much a sin of actions. It's a sin of the heart and of the mind, which is why it makes it more difficult to perceive. Most of us understand physical sin. When you commit adultery, or you hit your neighbor, or hit somebody, or kill someone, or lie, or steal. These are things that we are able to understand as sin, because they have an action. Something has happened and it makes you feel awful. The sin of Job is a sin of the heart and of the mind, which makes it harder to understand and perceive. But Elihu, excuse me, the only friend who was able to see what Job had done wrong in his life, and through it we are able to see ourselves and see how important it is to us for us to remove these sins, the sins of the heart and the mind, um, from our own lives, so that we can walk with God humbly and with a clear conscience, basically. Okay, so enough that said. Let's go on with chapter 35 of the book of Job. And Elihu said, "Do you think this to be just? Do you say, it is my right before God that you should say, what advantage have I? How am I better off than if I had sinned?" So basically he's saying here, Job, these are the words of Job's that Elihu is quoting back to him, that Job is more, he says, it is my right before God, that God owes him a living. This is what Job is saying. Job has said that God is lucky to have him. And not most of us have that same attitude, if you think about it. Most of us believe that God is lucky that we are part of his kingdom. God is the one that's blessed. Oh God, you're so lucky. I'm so righteous. You're so lucky to have someone like me in your kingdom. Does that sound prideful? Yeah, it is. Instead of thinking, I'm so blessed because God chose me, I've been brought into his kingdom, I was his enemy, you know, I'm nothing, and yet he chose me. I am so blessed to be in his kingdom. Most people think, God, you're so lucky to have me in your kingdom. Aren't you lucky? Because I'm so good and so wonderful. You're the lucky one. This is what Job was saying. Job is my right before God. Job has the right to be in heaven, or to have a place in heaven, because Job is so good. That's what he's saying. And also he says something very wicked. He says, what advantage have I? How am I better off than if I had sinned? So Job is really actually kind of envious of the sinner. He says that it's, well, I might as well have been a sinner. What difference does it make whether I walk righteously with God or whether I'm a sinner? Look at what happens to me. God is unjust. God is unjust because, look, I walked all my life perfectly before the Lord, and look what this calamity had happened to me. So Job was really saying, there's no advantage. There's no advantage to being righteous before God. There's no advantage of doing good things. That's a wicked statement, people, and that's what Job said. So we go on in verse 4. I will answer you and your friends with you. Look at the heavens and see, and behold the clouds, which are higher than you. If you have sinned, what do you accomplish against him? And if your transgressions are multiplied, what do you do to him? He said, God is so much higher than you. What do you think that you're doing that's so wonderful for God? What makes you think that you can hurt God by doing wicked things? What makes you think you can do anything for God by doing good things? He is so much above you. He's so high above you. So, God is still in control. You are your little man things can't harm God. And this is what he's saying. If you have sinned, what do you accomplish against him? What advantage is there to sin? There is no advantage to sin. If you are righteous, what do you give to him? Or what does he receive from your hand? He said, God isn't lucky to have you in his kingdom. You're lucky to be in his kingdom. That's what he's saying here. He said, you walk righteously because you are in the presence of a mighty God. Your righteousness means nothing to him. Your sin can't hurt him. You walk righteously because he's a righteous God. You walk righteously because you obey him, because he's so much higher than you. You give him honor. That's what your righteous walk is about. It's about honoring God. Okay? Out of honor and out of fear, because you love his ways. That's why we walk righteously. Not because anything you do is necessary for him. His ways are so much bigger and better than yours. So anything you have to give him is nothing. You've got nothing to give him. You can't earn your salvation. That's basically what he's saying. I hope this makes some sense to you. If you are righteous, this is verse 7. If you are righteous, what do you give him? Or what does he receive from your hand? Your wickedness concerns a man like yourself, and your righteousness a son of man. So really, you're right. If you do wicked or you do righteous, it actually affects you. It doesn't affect God, it affects you. That's why we do what we do. If you want righteousness in your life, you will walk righteously. If you want wickedness in your life, well, you're going to reap wickedness. But that is up to you. That is a choice you have to make. Okay? Now, let's continue. Verse 9. Because of the multitude of oppressions, people cry out. They call for help because of the arm of the mighty. But none say, where is my God, my Maker? Where is God, my Maker, who gives song in the night, who teaches us more than the beasts of the earth, and makes us wiser than the birds of the air? Okay, so what he's saying here is that when people are in trouble, they call out to God. We know this. When you're in trouble, God, help me. I need help. Please help me. That's when we remember God, is when we're in trouble. He says, but very few people call out to God just for the joy of calling out to God. There's no one who really wants a relationship with God. They call out to him when they're in trouble. They don't call out to him just for the relationship's sake. This is what he said. But none says, where is my God, my Maker, who gives me songs in the night? This is about rejoicing and worship, just for the sake of worship. He teaches, this is verse 11, he teaches us more than the beasts of the earth and makes us wiser than the birds of the air. God has gifts to give us when we rejoice, when we praise him, when we want a relationship with him. And this is what he is saying. Very few people really want a relationship with God. They cry out to God when they're in trouble and when they need help, but very few people want a relationship with him or worship him just for the sake of worshiping him. Verse 12, there they cry out, but he does not answer because of the pride of evil men. Surely God does not hear an empty cry, nor does the Almighty regard it. He's saying God knows the difference. God knows. He's not stupid. He knows when we're just crying out for the sake of, God deliver me, and yet we don't want a relationship with him. This is most people's attitude. They only want a relationship with God as far as, God help me. God save me. I'm in trouble. But when it comes to just having a relationship with him, appreciating him, wanting to know him and know his word and love it and love him. You think God, most of us are expressing empty words. We only turn to him when we need him. We need help. But God, he's saying God does not hear empty cries. He will not say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll help you," just because you're crying out every once a month for some money or some food or whatever it is. If you are genuine in your desire to know Him and to love Him and to find out what He wants for you, and just to appreciate Him, God hears those cries. He hears the sincere heart. But those people who are just crying out because they're oppressed, and yet they don't really want God at all, which, by the way, is what Elihu is saying to Job about his own relationship. Job is covering his bases in order to protect himself, but he didn't really want a relationship with God. And this is what Elihu is saying to Job. You don't really love God. You don't really want a relationship with Him. You just want your butt covered. Surely God does not hear an empty cry, nor does the Almighty regard it. How much less when you say that you do not see Him, that the case is before Him, and you're waiting for Him. So here Job is already, he's not only, only calling out to God when he needs help. He's also very angry at God. He's saying, God doesn't hear empty cries. He doesn't hear insincere hearts. But how much less He's going to listen to you when you have put rebellion and wicked words on top of it, saying that God owes you a living. When you say to God, you're done unjustly towards me. So not only are you insincere about your cry for help, you are also angry. You're in full of wrath towards God. You are calling God an unjust God. You're not even worshiping Him. You're not even, worshiping Him in your distress. You are calling God unjust, and you're saying that He's cruel. So you really think He's going to listen to you? This is what He said. You think He's going to listen to you when you have this kind of attitude? No, God is not a fool. He's not mocked and He's not scorned. This is exactly what He's saying to Job, this is exactly what you've done. And now because His anger does not punish, He does not greatly heed transgression. Job opens his mouth in empty talk. He multiplies words without knowledge. He's just saying, Job, I'm telling you the truth. You've done wrong. You've done wrong. It's time to see yourself clearly. You've done wrong. Okay, so this is the end of part 4 on Elihu. We've still got a couple of more chapters to go. Elihu continues. So we will get to that in a moment. God bless.